What is going on out there, peeps? Man, I tell you what, there's so many good things happening over in Iraq. I've been kind of paying attention to news on and off while I was visiting with my kids, but the more I pay attention, the more impressive it absolutely looks. Iraq seems to really be stepping out on an international scene. It's looking really good. As a matter of fact, they're not just stepping out on the international scene, they seem to be taking a very active role for the Middle East on the international scene. So this is really good. We're going to talk about a few things. So most of it is good. There's a couple things I don't like, but again, it's not there yet. That's just me foreshadowing a little bit about what I think is coming, but we'll get into that. You guys know most importantly, me, I love gold and silver. So, and right now there's some movements going on with banks all over in different countries. That got me really questioning about what's going on the gold and silver market. We will touch on that a little bit here. But when you guys go to buy your gold and silver, go check out our friends over that Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you are a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, Pimpy, and you will get a free half an ounce of silver. For those of you looking for my address, there it is right there. And you guys know I have this other website in which I post stuff that you cannot post on YouTube. I posted a ton of videos over there. Since I've been back last night, there's a lot of them on the Rona. New ones on the Rona, a bunch of new ones, as well as on the elections and other ones that are in there. There's probably like 6 or 7 new videos that were posted since last night for those of you who are on the website. All right, I just wanted to let you know about that. Okay, so what is going on over here? Quite a few things. And I told you about this. Somebody came in there and took out all the money. It was Maliki and his corrupt peoples who did it. So look at this finance minister. Nearly $200 billion were smuggled out of the Iraq. But I mean, like literally, somebody took out a lot of the dinars, the actual currency itself. But in here, they're talking about there was all kinds of really corrupt situations, corrupt deals, corrupt projects in which people just stole the money, took it out of the country. So now I'm not, in this case, they're not just talking about the dinars. They're actually talking about through corruption, they were able to steal a lot of money from the Iraqi people. But the actual currency is gone as well. So yeah, the minister said, and this is loud, he said nearly $200 billion were smuggled out of the country due to corruption. He said there was in a number of interviews, and we've heard him say this throughout the year, he said that it is not easy to recover these funds, and we have started dialogue with neighboring countries that received our money, stressing that $20 billion evaporated from the smuggled Iraq money in the banks of the country. So people were probably in cahoots with other politicians or other bankers, and the bankers set them up in these different banks in other countries, and they did whatever their little, crimes are. Nonetheless, a lot of money was stolen out of Iraq. We know this has been going on for some time. That's the great thing about having Al-Kadhimi in there. He's been implementing new, updated versions of different technology to help reduce the opportunity for people to steal money. So yeah, this isn't good, and we know about this. We also know that a huge chunk of their actual money is missing. And so I know they were voting on that or working on that, doing what they needed to do to get that back. So I'm curious to see where that goes. So here it is. Al-Kadhimi, Iraq has begun to take its historical role to be one of the pillars of peace in the region. Yes, it appears that way. That's for sure. As a matter of fact, we're starting to see a lot more meetings take place. Their neighboring countries, including Iran. So Al-Kadhimi, yeah, I mean, again, I'm not from Iraq, obviously, but so far it seems like all the news articles we ever read on this guy look positive. They're very positive and a lot of stuff that he's doing. So that'd be great for it to continue. But keep an eye on the fact that they're going to be focusing on some banks. There's a reason for that. It says we welcome you into Baghdad. So he's the leader of that meeting that's coming up. We know they have that big conference in Baghdad. There's a lot of countries coming in to talk. This is going to give, again, Iraq an opportunity to really get out there and on the international scene and do business. So it's exciting. As I was going through the articles, I was like, yes, there we go. That's what we're talking about. A move in the right direction. Now, the only concern I have is about what's going on over there in Afghanistan. I mean, it's a concern, and with good reason, but so far these countries, if they're all working together and if they all bond together, they should be able to do a great job of, keeping what's going on in Afghanistan without it, hopefully without it spreading over into other countries. We don't want to see that happen. Okay, especially since we just were nice enough to donate a ton of modernized military weaponry over there. As a matter of fact, overnight, Afghanistan has now more Apache helicopters than 85% of other countries in the world. That's crazy. It says, anyways, there's many challenges they suffer in the region. They're going to deal with it. It says I look forward to meeting and resulting support for Iraq's historical role in establishing peace. Nice continuation of the Abraham Accord. So Iraq's vision we need to be established. So they've already been talking with one another. So I think this gives them a chance to sit down at the table, all of them together. So no more wars, conflicts, and disputes. Man, he's calling for peace, and let's keep our fingers crossed. I really pray for all the people over there, and I mean all those countries over there, Syria as well, Yemen. I mean, the slavery over there is just ridiculous. But anyways, yeah, Iraq to take such a leadership role is exciting to watch. So let's hope that it continues and this works out. We know we got elections coming on. I love this. That's why I was rushing to the article. I should have took my time a little bit more, but I couldn't wait to get to this one. Finance Minister, what does he say? Iraq no longer needs an international monetary fund loan. Yes, that's exciting. Remember, they also were about to get a loan from the World Bank at one time, and then once the oil prices started to go up and they realized that their budget wasn't going to have a deficit, they're like, yeah, no, we're good. We don't need you neither. So the less that they need the IMF and the less that they need the World Bank, the better. Rely on themselves. They should turn to that Arab monetary fund that they have if they ever have a need for money. Anyways, Alawi confirmed that Iraq does not need an international monetary fund loan. Remember I was talking about the private sector? They need to get away from relying so much on oil for the revenue. Yeah, a lot of their private sector has been getting built up a lot more faster than people are aware of. One of the largest construction companies are over there right now, and they apparently seem to be whipping butt through a lot of things that are needed over there. And they've been there before. As a matter of fact, they've been there for a long time. They usually help with like airports and stuff like that. Why is that name slipping my mind? It's driving me crazy. Anyways, they go over there, and there's a lot of information coming from them that a lot of private sectors are getting built, and they're getting built quickly. So I love that news as well. That's separate than this. So it says during the news conference, he made a statement that they do not need the help of the IMF. So very excited about this. Is good, you guys. We don't want Iraq relying on anybody else. Let them rely on themselves. Alawi stressed that the relationship with the International Monetary Fund is good, noting at the same time that Iraq no longer needs to borrow due to the rise in oil prices, as well as adjusting the exchange rate of the dollar. Yes, they devalued their currency, plus the oil prices went up, which means they're going to pay off their debt with cheaper dollars. Architectural point of view, it is a very good project, but it is very costly for the state. So what is he talking about? He's talking about that, I believe it's pronounced Bosnia project. It's a complex. So just like in Vietnam, they also want a huge complex built there so people can run a lot of business out of there. And at first I was all excited because in Vietnam, they have this. It's this huge area where businesses, could be warehouses and stuff going on there. But it actually becomes a complex where a lot of different sectors, a lot of different businesses come together under one umbrella in Vietnam. And it looks like that's what they want to build here over in Iraq. And I thought, oh, that's cool, just like Vietnam. But then it just dawned on me. This is when you start getting into that, whether you believe in it or not, that great reset. They want one of these centers put in every country. Those people would be your unelected officials who are going to tell your politicians how to run the world. Yeah, so then I was like, wah, wah. So we'll see where it heads out there. But they're going to pump it out like it's something that's needed and something that's great. Okay? The Minister of Finance announces the completion of the preparation for the 2022 budget. Yes, ahead of schedule. Thank goodness. Usually it's like 6 months into that year before they get it out. So it looks like they might be there. So 3 weeks. 3 weeks it's going to be presented. Whoa, that's way early, man. That's getting it done here in August. Very nice. Says Iran officially announced its plan to attend the Baghdad summit. At first, I was like, no, but then I was like, no, wait a minute, this is a good thing, all right? So, but I do think it's important for them to get there. We know their currency just took a big hit. I think that's one of the articles that's in here. But yeah, the sanctions are still going. They're still working on weapons grade uranium. So now Iran is going to be there at this meeting. You would think that when they have a chance to sit with all these different countries, all of them, to sit down and talk about, hey, stop allowing outsiders to come into our countries, cause all these fights. We need to get together. They have a lot of riches. They have a lot of oil. They have a lot of resources, and cooperate with one another. It's when you get greed in there, and not just greed, corruption, and then just power in general is very corrosive. So it'd be nice to see them really come out of these deals with peace in the Middle East and let us stay that way for a while. It'd really be nice. For good would be better, but so I'm glad to see that Iran's going to take part of this. I really don't want them left out as long as they learn how to behave themselves. So it says the Ministry of Finance acknowledges the difficulty of balancing Iraq's oil and non-oil resources. Again, the non-oil resources are an area which they're working on. He said in a press conference held today at the headquarters, we have started reforming financial institutions, starting with banks and the tax authorities to create tools to manage the local economy without changing these institutions, but rather reforming them, which is good. So here we go. We got the conference coming up, and it says that the conference for cooperation as well as partnership, hot files, and division over the repercussions of the results. This is a time for them to sit at the table and iron things out. There they are. That's what I was looking for. So who's going to be there? It looks like Iran, Turkey, Jordan, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Egypt, and France are going to be. I'm not sure where France is going to be there. But anyways, resolving the crisis of conflict between regional countries. Nope, just they're going to talk about the issues over there. In Yemen, how come nobody talks about Yemen no more? Good Lord. So that's a lot of different countries there. That's a lot of very wealthy countries there that are going to be sitting at the table. There's a couple things that make me nervous. First of all, I mean, you do got tribal differences in here, but it's not just that. You have the elections are coming up. And I'm hoping and praying that it goes clearly. It's very transparent and not done the same way ours were done here. We already see Sauder complaining that the election's rigged. I was like, no, man, I don't want to hear that. I'm pulling for Al-Kadhimi to win again, him and his people. He's done a lot for the country. I like to see him continue. Okay. See, this is the part that was like, oh, nah. So the Sauder's movement elaborates on the reason for its electoral boycott. So it just tells you down here. It's the same thing. He's saying, what good is the election if they already know who's going to win? You can pretty much tell who's going to win based on this and based on that. So he's concerned about a rigged election, and he said this election's already violating the Constitution. What Sauder's role is going to be as far as, I really like to see him participate. But anyways, I'm excited about all these different things. There's a lot of reform coming. There's elections are coming. We see this summit that's coming. We know that Iraq is about to jump back on the international scene in a big way. I'm excited about that. Having all these nations there, talking about how they can work together, how to stabilize the region, how to do trade. These are all great things that help build these countries back up. The IMF, you did see a part of that article, did say, they're still going to need them possibly for the ongoing reconstruction of the country. So, of course, that's out there. This is what I like to see. Iraq establishes a sustainable partnership in various fields with countries in the region. Yeah, this meeting looks to be pretty exciting. And there's all areas you can see right here they're going to be talking about. The economy, investments, energy, transportation, trade, and the environment. So, good going. It looks like, again, there's a lot of countries that are going to be there. This is Al-Kadhimi starting to step up as a leader for this country. Well, he's been a leader, I should say. So we know that's coming up this next Saturday. It's only a couple days away. We'll see how that turns out. So here's one thing that for some reason just irks me. Washington, $5.2 million to support Iraq's election monitoring. When you can't even secure ours, how the hell are they involved in other people's elections? And then you have the UN there. That's me just venting out you guys a little bit. So the big collapse of the Iranian currency, well, that's because they're still being sanctioned, surprisingly. I don't know for how long. I'm already hearing Biden make all kinds of excuses. So the currency took a major hit against the foreign currencies shortly after the government of the new president was introduced, which is interesting because there's no explanation for it to drop. There wasn't any. As a matter of fact, this article goes on to say that they have no idea why it dropped. This is according to the news, the website, the price of $1, so in other words, their value devalued against the US dollar. Since the beginning of last June, the exchange rate of the dollar has been consistently rising. That's ours. And the Iranian national currency has lost about 15% of its value during this period. Iran officials did not say the reason for the sharp rise in the value of the dollar. But Iran's treasury recently reported that 3% of the oil revenues was generated this spring. So they need to sell their oil, and they're not able to do that, not like they used to, as long as they're under sanctions. It says oil was the most important source of foreign exchange in Iran. In the period before the U.S. sanctions imposed by the Trump administration, the annual sales were $60 billion. The currency went down, fine. As soon as these sanctions are lifted, I know the value is going to go up, so I'm buying it while it's cheaper. I mean, I haven't bought none recently, but I have some. So, Ms. Blacksharge, would she say the credibility of the election is essential? Yeah, that's what we've been saying, as long as it is legit. Okay, so here's where I was trying to get to as well. This is a thing that I don't like. This is Iraq's share of the new International Monetary Fund billions. This is the SDRs. The SDRs are not good, you guys. All this is going to do is make richer countries richer while it enslaves poor countries and takes away all of their resources, such as gold, silver, metals, anything else that a country has is poor. They're going to use the SDRs to really just screw these people over. They make it sound like it's good, but don't they do that all the time? Hey, this is good for you, buddy. No, it's not. It never is. They're already fighting over who the dominating dollar should be for the SDR baskets. I'll show you in a second here what the SDRs are and explain to you how they work. But yeah, you can see here, they're just showing them what their breakdown is, and they're lumped together with a lot of other countries. But you're going to see people like, United States, Brazil, China, Russia be the predominant ones as far as the shareholders are concerned. It says the value of the SDR is based on a basket of international currencies consisting of US dollars, the yen, the euros, the pound, the yuan. So Al-Qademi preparing for the conference. I wanted to come down here a little bit more. And I know people are asking me, they still ask me, you guys still ask me, do you think there's going to be a rate change in there? I always say, look, anything is possible. Really, it is. But they're really on their way of rebuilding that country. Now, here's where a low currency hurts them. If they have to import a lot of things, that means their purchasing power is really weak. That's not good. You'd want a stronger exchange rate. But if they're exporting products that are made, well, then a lower currency helps them as far as being competitive on the international scene because they can sell their items cheaper. The thing is, I don't know what they're really producing, to be quite honest with you, because the whole country is rebuilding. So do I think there's a possibility of a rate change? Yes, but do I think it's going to be a major RI or RV? There's no saying. But I think you're going to see some rate changes happen. But I'm one of the people, and I know you guys don't like to hear this, that it goes up in small increments in the beginning. Just in the beginning, because you don't want to shock the economy too much. You could cause it to collapse again. So we'll see where it leads. I'm not committed to any kind of rate. I think, they had a good year this year so far. They were definitely had a surplus. So hopefully with the gas prices continuing to be the way it is, and we got winter months coming up, And as long as the oil prices stay up there, this could be really good. Now, their next year's budget, I think this year is between $42 and $45 they budgeted per barrel for oil. Next year, I think it's between 52 and 55, which they're still much higher than that right now. I think they're still in the 70s as far as a $78, I think it is, per barrel at the moment. So yeah, I love this. This is the Baghdad Summit is an opportunity for everyone to rearrange relations with Iraq. Yeah, that put a big smile on my face, and it should you as well, because there are going to be a lot of countries there. This would be the time for them to put on their big boy pants and all sit down and iron crap out and realize that they're stronger united than they are divided. Joint Operations announces the completion of the plan to secure the Baghdad Summit, so they're good, so that there's no terrorist attacks. As a matter of fact, one of these articles goes on to say that they feel like they're pretty much at the end, which is kind of weird for them to say, of dealing with ISIS. They think they've just about got rid of them, and I find that a little hard to believe. All right, skip past this. Planning to discuss economic reform mechanisms with the World Bank. Look, they still are consulting with the World Bank. We're talking about when they did that Paris Agreement. One of the things was because people are like, they can't tell them what to do. And I said, they are. That's why you don't want them to get no loans from the World Bank and IMF. Someone's trying to tell me just because they get a loan, they can't tell another country what to do as far as monetary policies. Yes, they did. That's why Shabibi was pissed off, because I said it before and I'll say it every time. He was not a fan of their monetary policies because he said they did a great job of lowering inflation, but it did nothing to help the growth of the economy because the exchange rate was too low in the paperwork that they were agreeing on. And you can see that's where they are now. Now, let that sink in for just a second. Think about what Shabibi was complaining about. Yes, it was great for helping with inflation, but he said it did not help their economic growth because of the low exchange rate. So when people go, oh man, that rate change is never going to change. Oh, it's going to change. If he's saying it didn't help with their economic growth because of the exchange rate being too low, what the hell do you think that means? Right now, they're trying to rebuild. If they really want to boom an economy, get people back into work, you're going to have to change the rate of the exchange. Sooner or later, you need more purchasing power. But you can't just whip that bad boy out now because there's not a lot supporting its strength. Okay, so I wanted to look at one. Oh, yeah, here it is. The development bank tops the list of private banks in terms of value assets. Yeah, so just so you guys know, the SDR, I'll show you the example of what it is, enslaving all the smaller countries. That's just what I think they're looking to do. So a lot of these development banks or central banks are now being really beefed up and either being built for the first time or being remodeled. Their systems are all new systems so that they communicate with other banks. So all the systems have to be connected to one another. So that's where all these upgrades to banks and bank buildings are happening everywhere. It's your one world currency. So the system has all have to be connected. So yeah, academic calls on everyone to unite in order to face challenges and move forward with reform. Yeah, taking a great leadership role. So, and then there's more talk about other banks and the private banks and the private sector. But there was one article I wanted to quickly go over. So look at that. The International Development Bank occupies the first place at the level of Iraq's banks. So the Iraq is also buying more U.S. Treasury bonds. Well, that helps strengthen their currency, by the way. That's a good thing. It's more of their foreign assets. That's what they need. Alrighty. Okay. I don't know how far down that article was, but it was a good article and I was excited. So all the articles in here, you guys, they look really good. It looks very promising. So as the days are going by, I would run over here and peek real quick and just see more and more of Al-Qadimi really just playing a big part. That's exciting. Getting together these countries and saying, hey, work together and not against each other. That's going to help them in the future. More development in their country. That's a great thing. That's what a lot of these articles are. So I was excited to see this. I think it was a Matthew. Oh, here he is. Because people were asking me, I said, look, the situation in Afghanistan is not cool. That's not good, because then it just becomes really a training ground and launching ground for a lot of different terrorist groups. So here you got Matthew Toller saying, because people were talking about, could the same thing happen to Iraq? And he's saying, no, 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 this is a little bit different. Their situation, they're not the same as Afghanistan. He said the situation of Iraq different from that of Afghanistan. There are groups that challenge the sovereignty, and that's Iraqi people within Iraq trying to sabotage their own sovereignty. Well, who would want to sabotage their sovereignty? Well, how about people who want to keep things on a corrupted level? Because if they keep this country in a position that it's in right now, this allows them to do a lot of corrupt things and be under the radar. But once the country starts to rebuild itself and it starts to get organized, and you start restoring peace in there, and you start getting police officers out there, and you get a military, and once you start having all these things and everything is getting upgraded, well, it's not so easy to commit all the kind of crimes that they were getting away with so easily before. It says, we are in the final stages of defeating ISIS completely, and Iraqi forces can complete the mission of the war against ISIS. So let them do it. That's another huge step in, yes, restoring their sovereignty. That's what we're looking for. So, yeah, it looks good. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Now, people are asking me about the SDR. That's not good. It's actually not at all. That's just another sneaky way that bankers found to try to make it sound like it's something that's real positive, and it's not. But this person does a great job of explaining it, so let's check it out.
Special drawing rights, or SDRs, play an important role in providing liquidity to the global economic system. SDRs were created by the IMF in 1969 to supplement the official reserves of its member countries. SDRs aren't a currency, and they're not claims on the IMF, but they are an international reserve asset that can be converted into reserve currencies with the help of other member countries.
So don't be surprised if you don't see them try to replace cryptocurrencies and gold and silver. In other words, anything that could be considered some other type of currency, that they just say, no, get rid of all of it. These things have no more value. And from now on, we're only going to use SDRs. As far as the banks, not the people, you guys, but the banks. And then that would devalue, of course, your cryptocurrencies as well as your gold or silver, although I wouldn't give that up to save my life.
This way, IMF members have access to unconditional liquidity. SDRs are normally distributed among...
How many of you believe they have access to unconditional liquidity? With all the economies crashing everywhere right now, how is it that they magically happen to have some SDRs laying around, and that it somehow gives you liquidity when the economies are trashed? Makes you think, doesn't it?
Among members through a process called a general allocation, a decision that requires approval by the IMF Board of Governors with at least 85% of the total voting power. There have been...
Again, this is going into that one world government, because look at these people, they are unelected bureaucrats that are going to be sitting on this board who decide who gets what, also dictating policies. So here in the United States, it says as clear as day in our Constitution that no outside entity should be dictating or influencing our monetary policies. As you can still see, they don't give a rat's ass. The government has definitely gotten way too comfortable with just doing whatever they want without asking the United States citizens permission for some of these things, especially this thing here. They sent over a ton of tax dollars. Did we know about this? Did we have a say-so? I don't think so.
4 so far in the history of the IMF. In a general allocation...
Or any of you other people in your other countries, are you aware of this? Did you give them permission to take your tax dollars and do this?
The IMF distributes SDRs to member countries in proportion to their quota shares at the IMF, reflecting their relative economic standing in the world economy. Only certain parties can hold SDRs. The IMF, its member countries, and certain prescribed holders, such as regional central banks, intergovernmental monetary institutions, and some development banks.
Ah, there you go. So, again, the bankers are now becoming, as much as cryptocurrencies were to get rid of these bad guys, instead they've become even more powerful. The International Monetary Fund, the IMFs, through their central banks, this is how all this is going to get managed. We don't have a say-so. But they're using our dollars to run this thing.
The value of the SDR is updated daily and defined by a basket of major currencies used in the world's most important trading and financial systems: the US dollar, the euro, the Chinese renminbi, the Japanese yen, and the UK pound sterling. The SDR's interest rate is adjusted weekly based on the short-term interest rate of government.
Now, there was some talk that they might add in their Bitcoin, gold, and silver as well.
Securities of the currencies in the SDR basket. How do SDRs help provide liquidity to the global economic system? Members can exchange SDRs for freely usable currencies held by other members. This brings down their SDR holdings, but provides them with the currency to either help meet balance of payment needs or add to their own reserves. Members can also use.
Yeah, but why do they need to exchange for those? See, back in the olden days when we did trade, whenever you were doing something in another country, you had to use the local currency in order to do business. So if you had Americans over there or American corporations that had businesses over there, they had to be able to go in a bank and, trade the US dollars for the local currencies. So they would exchange them. It's a slow process, but isn't this what they're telling us? The central bank digital currencies, cross-border payments, that's help instantaneously. Well, then, they have no interest in whatever these different currencies are. That's not what's going to happen. It's just going to be a currency. The SDR will be the one world currency.
Use their SDRs to pay for IMF loans or quota increases. Members with strong external positions sometimes use their SDR holdings to contribute to the financing of low-income countries by lending to the Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust.
Oh, isn't that nice of them? Huh. Isn't that how they do that? Oh, they're going to end the poverty by lending them your money. Yeah. No, they're going to screw people over like they do here in the United States by just spending more money than they ridiculously have, keeping us paying taxes for generations to come. All they're going to do is use the SDR currency, the one world currency, to control the poor countries. That's all they're going to do.
Members can hold on to their allocated SDRs to increase their international reserve buffer. They earn interest on their holdings of SDRs and pay interest on their cumulative allocations at the same SDR interest rate. This means that the interest earned and charged cancel out so long as SDR holdings are equal to their allocated SDRs. So, holding on to the allocation itself has no cost for the members. If a member exchanges its SDRs for freely usable currencies, its SDR holdings and the interest earned on those holdings will fall. If the holding falls below the cumulative allocation, the member has to pay interest on the shortfall. Likewise, if a member provides freely usable currencies in exchange for extra SDRs, it gets paid interest on the surplus of SDR holding.
So poor countries who can't afford to pay the loans back, you can see already what's going to happen. They're just going to do like we're doing here, where we have to pay for our debt here in our country. We just keep pumping out dollars like it's the thing to do. Meanwhile, the interest on it is up so high, it's ridiculous. It's never going to be payable. That's what you're going to see them take it on a much grander scale and impoverish these nations more than they already are. They're going to create a one world government currency. Here it is. It's the SDR. They're already talking about adding or it replacing all the currencies. So I know what they're trying to tell you is that there's a basket of currencies and that's where it gets its value. No, they're just going to say this is its value. with nothing to support it because they don't care. There's no way to audit them. There's no way to double check it. There's no way to know how much is there. We have to just go on their word that the amount that they say is there, and that they're running this thing properly. Meanwhile, using taxpayers, the slaves, money to do this thing. Are you catching on yet? Because this is, and I'll be, no, man, my Dogecoin is going to be the world currency. No, people, this SDR is the currency. I thought it was going to be the yuan, and I know China's fighting really hard to make it the digital yuan, but they're over there actually negotiating on power over the SDR. So if that was their intentions and that's what they were going to do, they wouldn't be negotiating. So I think it's just used to try to indoctrinate everybody into using digital currencies, but we will see. Anyways, I'm just mumbling over this thing because the fact that countries are starting to get into the idea of using SDRs is not good. All we did is just make the international bankers the people running the world more than they are already. So, wasn't thrilled to see that they were looking at their allocation of SDR when they have all the oil mostly over there, man. You know, it seems to me like they could really do a lot of damage to countries who didn't agree to be more even-footed on trade, if you get my drift. It's looking good, you guys. I did keep an eye on the articles. I'm really pumped with what Al-Qademi appears to have done to the country. A lot of great things. I can tell you this, and I'm sure most of us who's been doing this for a long time, you guys remember when Maliki resigned and there was all these troubles of trying to figure out who the prime minister was going to be, and I never felt like they were going to get anywhere, and then they had to vote in their cabinets, and I thought, man, every time they take like 3 or 4 steps forward, they seem to take 10 back. But man, how crazy 1 year, in just 1 year, how far they've come along. So to me, that's an amazing feat, and I hope it continues. But having all these nations come in to sit down and have a conference on how they can help one another, how they can help rebuild one another, secure one another, that's going to be really, really good. What I'm hoping doesn't happen is I'm hoping that Afghanistan doesn't end up interfering and these people become the breeding ground for a lot of new terrorist groups. I like the fact that Iran is joining the groups because I'd rather them be over there with their other Arab nations talking about how they can help each other out instead of being pissy and then joining Afghanistan. Okay, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it looks good, you guys. That's what I was saying. That's what you want to see start happening. So all these things are going to strengthen the currency. Look, they're not going to be able to do a whole lot of reconstruction if they can't get more purchasing power. Now, I'm not promising anything. I have no idea what's in the 2022 budget. People say, do you think the rate change could be in there? Oh, yeah, I do. But that doesn't mean it's going to be. Okay, stay grounded, all right? I know there's people out there, once again, talking about the Tier 1, Tier 2, D1, D2, military intel, confirm this person, confirm that person's intel, and we got to... Look, every day if you keep saying that something's going to stick against a wall and you keep throwing something against it, eventually, sometime within 20 years, it's actually going to stick, okay? So, keep your fingers crossed. It's looking good. Let's hope for real, transparent, fair elections so that we don't have people rising up, upset about the election results, causing things to destabilize again. All these people coming for this meeting in Baghdad is an awesome thing. It looks really good. The economy is on its way. The reform papers have been implemented. We got the United States pulling out of there. We have Iraq putting on their big boy chonies and starting to become a sovereign nation. These are all the things that you want to see happen. That's what you pay attention to whenever you're paying attention to the exchange rate of a currency. All of these things are a factor in it. I've done videos proving that to you guys, all right? Looks good. Pumped about it. That's it for now, you guys. Hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. I'll catch you later. I'm out.